Hey guys, how's it going? This is Rashad from Hero Productions. I wanted to take the time to talk a little bit about Avengers Endgame. As a lot of you probably know, it had a historic opening weekend. It opened at $350 million domestically and $1.2 billion worldwide. An astounding amount of money, an ungodly, crazy amount of money, for a motion picture to make. And although that is an achievement in itself, the fact that it made so much money, one of the things that I noticed was the fact that there's a lot of lessons that we can learn in terms of marketing and branding from this film. This movie, some people would say, would be 80 years in the making in terms of the development of the characters. The first character, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, was created back during World War II. And then you had Spider-Man in the '60s, and you had the X-Men in the late '60s, going on with the Incredible Hulk and some of the other characters, and then of course the MCU was developed, and so forth and so on. But I don't want to get into a long history lesson about that. But what I want to talk about is long-term branding and long-term marketing, and that was something that this movie did exceptionally well. And the Disney Corporation, with the help of Marvel Studios, they've done that exceptionally well. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't understand and don't realize is that when Marvel decided to start making movies, I believe it was back in the late '80s, when you started having movies like Superman the movie. DC started branding some of their characters, like Superman the movie came out in 1978, and then you had followed by Batman in 1989. Marvel was trying to do the same exact thing. They first started off with Captain America and the Fantastic Four, and then in 1989 with Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher. None of those movies were box office successes here in America, but it wasn't until 1998 when they rolled the dice with New Line Cinema on an obscure C grade character, which was Blade, the vampire hunter. And if you read Tomb of Dracula, you would know that Blade was an essential character in the comic book. He was like a jive talking rip off of Richard Roundtree and Shaft, and he didn't have much to him. So they pretty much gave Wesley Snipes free range to do whatever he wanted to do with that character, and he made it into his own. I mean, even before Robert Downey Jr. Reinvented the character of Tony Stark's, Wesley Snipes did it first with Blade, because most of what you saw in the movie was his idea. It wasn't the idea of anything you saw with Marvel itself. The martial arts fighting, the weapons, the sword, all that stuff was the creation of Wesley Snipes, and also with his collaboration with David Goyer, who wrote the stories for the Dark Knight trilogy that was written and directed ultimately by Christopher Nolan. But Blade, of course, like I said, Blade opened up the floodgates for Marvel to do more movies, and they saw that if we can do this with a film that's a C-list character and make a bona fide hit, if the material is handled the right way, if it's taken seriously, if we do some creative things with our projects, what can we do with a product or a branded character of ours that's well known, that's a household name, like Spider-Man? And then the answer to that was what you saw in 2002's Spider-Man, directed by Sam Raimi and starring Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. And this, kicked off the modern comic book movie era that we are currently in today. But they didn't stop there. They wanted to create a whole entire universe like they have in their comic books. With, of course, first starting off with Iron Man 2008, and then they went on to create other movies: Captain America, Thor, The Incredible Hulk. And then ultimately, of course, the Avengers. And now we're getting other spinoff. We're getting other characters being introduced: Ant-Man, Black Panther, and many, many others. But how was this a lesson getting back to my initial statement, how is this a lesson in terms of branding for a filmmaker? Well, the lesson I believe is that if you create yourself a character, whether it be in a book, whether it be in a movie, or whether it be in a screenplay, don't sell your product if you have no end game, no pun intended, if you had no end game in terms of how you intend to market this product to the public. There's so many people out there that when they create a product, they always try to look for the quick return. And sometimes that return may not pay off for 10 years, 20 years, or in the case of Steve Rogers, Captain America, 80 years. So the key is to hold on to what you own. Don't sell it to someone else, and figure out a way in order to brand it. It may take a while to brand it, but don't give it up. And that was one of the things I think that Marvel did exceptionally well with these characters, is the fact that they didn't sell their products to anyone else. I mean, ultimately, Marvel Studios was sold to Disney, but they are always trying to figure out ways of how can we monetize these characters that we created, and how can we get them out there in the public and turn it into gold, into motion pictures. And the first time they did it, of course, they failed, but then ultimately they figured out a way in order to make this happen. And of course, the timing couldn't have been more perfect, excuse me, with the advancement of cinematic technology. CGI has made it very possible for Marvel to bring to life a lot of the characters in their comic books and treat the material with the kind of integrity and the kind of quality. That's a better word, quality, that these characters in this world actually deserves. So when they tried to do it back in the 90s, technology was not where it is today. So that was part of the reason why a lot of the characters that they tried to bring to life didn't work. But now, considering the fact that you can pretty much do whatever you want in movies with technology, filmmaking at this point is limitless. They have processed, you can create whole entire worlds that look like what you see in comic books, or cartoons. You actually can even do things like de-age actors, like what they did with Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel, and what they're doing, what they did with Will Smith in this upcoming movie, The Gemini Man. So, with technology today, those things are limitless. But as I said before, as a filmmaker, one of the lessons that we have to learn is that we have to figure out always how we can brand and monetize our products and look at the long game. It may not pay off immediately. It may take some time to do it, but don't be so hasty to sell your creations just so you can go and make a quick buck. If you can figure out a way to monetize it, do that. George Lucas, as a matter of fact, he set a model for this years ago when he created Star Wars, because Star Wars was probably the first, actually I believe it was the first motion picture franchise that wasn't just movies. It was also a whole entire company in itself. So with George Lucas, he created video games, he created cartoons, he created spin-off TV shows, he created cartoon characters. I think I said that twice. He created a variety of different things that he can make money off of this one entire film that he created, and also spin-off movies. And ultimately, you saw that he held on to it as long as he could and ran with it as long as he could. And when Disney acquired it, they paid him something that was so ridiculous that he couldn't turn it down. I think he got paid $3 billion to give up all of his products and give up all of his rights for the Star Wars franchise. But the point is that don't be so quick to give up your branding. It may take a long time. And I use the example of Steve Rogers because Captain America, it took really over 5 decades, 50 years for Captain America to really pay off for Marvel in terms of how the potential of how much money could be made off of that character. and now we're seeing the benefits of that. Same exact thing with Tony Stark. All right. So anyway, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends, and I will talk to you soon. You can take care of yourself, and I will speak to you later. Bye.